The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wide enough to hold 1,000 beings. Dejo stood in the center, his black diplomatic suit making him look small against the towering alien representatives. He had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now. 3 long years of trying to make the other species understand that humans deserved a place among them. The council chamber was built from crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Around him sat representatives from 40 different worlds. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living metal. A few were just clouds of gas held together in special containers. They all watched him with eyes that showed no kindness. Dejo held a data tablet in his hands. His evidence was clear. For months, he had collected proof that council members were stealing from trade agreements. They took resources from smaller worlds and kept the profits for themselves. The corruption went all the way to the top. "I have the transaction records," Dejo said. His voice echoed in the huge room. Councilmember Thrax moved 15 million credits from the Belnar Colony Fund to his personal accounts. Councilmember Vex approved mining operations that destroyed 3 inhabited moons. Councilmember Ryal sold weapons to both sides of the Korthan Civil War. The aliens shifted in their seats. Some made angry sounds in their own languages. The head of the council, a massive creature called Overlord Kesh, leaned forward. His 4 red eyes focused on the human. "You dare accuse us?" Kesh's voice rumbled like thunder. "Your species has been in space for barely a century. We have maintained order for 10,000 years. Dejo did not back down. Order built on lies is not order. It's tyranny. Earth will not join a council that breaks its own laws." The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in hundreds of languages. Some banged their appendages on their seats. Others released chemicals that made the air smell like burning metal. Dejo had known this would be dangerous. Before he left Earth, his wife Hana had held him tight. She had tears in her eyes. "Come back to me," she had whispered. Their son Taimin had hugged his legs and asked him to bring back a souvenir from space. Dejo had promised both of them he would return, but standing here now, facing the rage of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, he wondered if he had made a promise he could not keep. Overlord Kesh raised one of his 6 arms. The chamber fell silent. "Ambassador Dejo of Earth, you have broken the sacred rule of the council. You have spoken lies and shown disrespect. For this there is only one punishment." Dejo felt his heart beat faster. "I have evidence. Let me present it fully. Let there be a proper investigation." "There will be no investigation," Kesh said. "The council has voted. The decision is final." Guards appeared from the shadows. They were Krull warriors, 8 feet tall with armor that looked like black stone. They moved toward Dejo with weapons drawn. "Wait," Dejo said. He raised his hands. "I invoke diplomatic immunity. Under council law, ambassadors cannot be harmed." Kesh's laugh sounded like rocks grinding together. "We are changing that law. Right now. All in favor?" 40 voices said yes. Not one voted no. Dejo reached for the emergency transmitter on his belt. If he could just send a signal back to Earth, warn them about what was happening. But a Krull guard grabbed his arm and crushed the device. The pieces fell to the crystal floor. "Take him to the execution platform," Kesh ordered. They dragged Dejo through corridors that twisted like a maze. His mind raced. He thought about Earth so far away. He thought about the message he had sent to his government before the council session. He had told them everything he knew about the corruption. He had warned them that the council might react badly. He hoped they would understand. He hoped they would know what to do. The execution platform was outside, open to the sky of the council's homeworld. Crowds of aliens had gathered. They wanted to watch. The Krull guards forced Dejo to his knees. Overlord Kesh appeared on a hovering platform above them. His voice boomed out through speakers. "Let this be a lesson to all worlds who question the council. Let this show what happens to those who spread lies and discord." Dejo looked up at the sky. He could not see Earth from here. It was too far, too small. But he knew it was out there. He knew his family was there. He knew his people were there. "I am Ambassador Dejo of Earth," he said loudly. "I die standing against corruption. I die for truth. And Earth will remember." Kesh made a signal. The Krull executioner raised his weapon. It hummed with energy. "My people will come," Dejo said. "And when they do, you will wish you had listened." The energy weapon fired. White light filled the platform. When it faded, Ambassador Dejo was gone. The execution was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species with communication technology saw it. They watched as Earth's representative died on his knees. They heard his final words, and they waited to see what humanity would do next. On Earth, in the government headquarters in Geneva, President Sung Ho watched the transmission. He sat in a dark room with the military council. General Bora stood by the window. Admiral Kyung-min had his hands clenched into fists. Secretary of Defense Yuri had tears running down her face. They had all known Dejo. He had been a good man, a brave man, and now he was dead. Send the signal, President Sung Ho said quietly. Activate Order 66, Admiral Kyung-min nodded. He picked up a secure phone and spoke one word. Execute. Across human space, on every colony, every station, every ship, commanders opened sealed orders. They read the instructions that had been prepared years ago. Instructions that no one thought would ever be needed. The instructions were simple and clear. Cut all contact with alien species immediately. Recall all human ships from Council space. Activate all defensive systems. Move all military assets to predetermined positions. Prepare for total war. And most importantly, make no sound. Let the galaxy wonder. Let them fear. Order 66 had begun. The silence started within hours of Dejo's execution. All across the galaxy, human voices simply stopped. On the trading station above Kelmar Prime, Merchant Captain Jae Sung was loading cargo containers when the message came through. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood. Then he dropped everything and ran to his ship. His alien business partners called after him, confused. They had contracts to fulfill. They had agreements. But Jae Sung did not look back. His ship was in space within 10 minutes. The same thing happened everywhere humans had gone. Scientists working on joint research projects left their labs. Diplomats walked out of meetings without explanation. Human families packed their belongings and headed for the nearest human colony. It was like watching a great tide pull back from the shore. Council member Vex was the first to notice something was wrong. She was a Velkin, a species that looked like tall blue birds. She tried to contact the human mining operation on Asteroid Base 17. No one answered. She tried again. Still nothing. This is Council Member Vex, she said into the communicator. I demand you respond immediately. Only static came back. Vex felt something she had not felt in many years. Fear. She opened her communication channels wider and tried to reach any human, anywhere. The entire human colony on Talus 7 was silent. The human science vessel near the Gamma Nebula did not respond. Even the small human restaurant in the Council station had closed its doors. Within 3 days, every human had vanished from Council space. It was as if an entire species had disappeared. Overlord Kesh called an emergency meeting. The Council chamber was full of worried representatives. They spoke in hushed voices, asking each other what was happening. The humans have gone quiet, Kesh announced. All of them, everywhere. Perhaps they are mourning their ambassador, suggested Council member Thrax. He was a massive creature covered in sharp scales. They will return when they are done crying. But as days turned into weeks, it became clear that this was not mourning. This was something else entirely. Trade routes that had relied on human merchants started to collapse. Humans had been good traders, fair and reliable. Without them, many small worlds struggled. The research station on Helix Moon had been studying a cure for the Torvan plague. Half the research team had been human. Now the project was stopped. People on Torva were dying. Council member Ryal tried to send a diplomatic ship to Earth. It was a gesture of peace, he said. A way to restart dialogue. The ship never reached Earth. It got close to the Sol system and then simply stopped transmitting. No distress call, no battle report. It was just gone. A second ship was sent. The same thing happened. They destroyed our ships, Rel said in the council chamber. He sounded both angry and afraid. They attacked vessels on a peace mission, but there was no proof. No wreckage was found. No witnesses came forward. It was as if the ships had sailed into a void and vanished. Admiral Kyung-min watched the reports from his command center on Earth's moon. He sat in a chair surrounded by holographic displays showing every corner of human space. Lieutenant Hae-jin stood beside him reading the latest intelligence. 2 more council scouts tried to approach Mars, she said. The automated defense grid sent them back. Did we harm them? Kyung-min asked. No, sir. Just disabled their engines and pushed them away. They got the message, Kyung-min nodded. That was the point of Order 66. Show strength, but do not start a war. Not yet. Let the Council wonder. Let them worry. How long until Phase 2? Heejin asked. 4 more months, Kyungmin said. We need to be ready. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. On Earth, life continued, but everything had changed. President Sung-ho spoke to his people every week. He explained what had happened to Ambassador Dejo. He told them that humanity would not accept this treatment. He said they would respond, but in their own time, in their own way. The people believed him. They worked harder than ever. Factories ran day and night building new ships. Training centers pushed soldiers to their limits. Scientists unlocked technologies that had been theoretical before. Everything humanity had held back, all the weapons and systems they had not shown the galaxy, were now being perfected. Dr. Minsu worked in a laboratory deep under Seoul. She was part of a team developing a new type of shield technology. It could stop any known weapon the Council species used. She had not slept properly in weeks. We need more time, she told General Bora during an inspection. The calculations are complex. You have 3 months, Bora said. After that we move. Minsu nodded and went back to work. She understood what was at stake. They all did. In the council chamber, the mood had shifted from confusion to worry. Trade was suffering. Research projects were stalled. And worst of all, they had no idea what the humans were doing. Maybe they have simply withdrawn, suggested Council Member Vex. Maybe they decided they want nothing to do with us. No, Overlord Kesh said. He stared at the empty space where Ambassador Dejo had stood before his execution. They are planning something. I can feel it. Then we should strike first, Thrax said. He stood up, his scales rattling. We should take a fleet to Earth and force them to communicate. Several council members agreed. Others shook their heads. The argument went on for hours. Finally, Kesh made a decision. We will send one final diplomatic mission. A large one with ships from every council world. We will demand that Earth respond. If they refuse, we will consider it an act of war. The vote passed. Preparations began for the largest council fleet ever assembled. Commander Wanshik monitored the council's communications from a hidden listening post. He recorded every transmission, every plan. When he learned about the fleet, he immediately sent word to Earth. President Sung-ho read the report. He called his council together. They are sending a fleet, he told them. They plan to threaten us into submission. Should we stop Phase 2? Asked Secretary Yuri. No, Sung-ho said. His voice was hard as steel. We accelerate it. They want to threaten Earth? Let them come. They will find out what happens when you corner a predator. Around the table, the human leaders nodded. They had spent 6 months preparing. 6 months of building, training, and planning. 6 months of silence. The silence was about to end. In space, human ships began to move. They were not running away. They were moving into position. Taking up places around key council worlds. Watching. Waiting. The council fleet set course for Earth. 60 ships from 40 different worlds. They thought they were going to intimidate humanity. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Back on Earth, Deho's widow Hana looked up at the night sky. She held her son Taemin's hand. The boy was 7 now, old enough to understand that his father was not coming home. Will there be a war, mother? Taemin asked. Hana thought about her husband. She remembered his last message to her. He had said that if something happened to him, humanity would not forget. Humanity would not forgive. Yes, she said softly. But we will win. For your father. For everyone, Taemin nodded. Even at 7, he understood justice. The galaxy had made its choice when it executed Ambassador Dejo. Now it would live with the consequences. The silence had served its purpose. Soon humanity would speak, and when they did, everyone would listen. The transmission came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Every communication device in council space received it at the same moment. Screens flickered. Radios crackled. Even the old emergency systems that some worlds thought were broken suddenly came to life. A simple message appeared. Just text, no voice, no image. But every species in the galaxy could read it because it was translated into every known language simultaneously. Order 66. Total Isolation Protocol. Initiated 186 days ago. Completion in 14 days. Humanity remembers Ambassador Dejo. Humanity does not forgive, that was all. The message stayed on screens for exactly 1 minute, then it vanished. Panic spread through the council worlds faster than light. In the council chamber, Overlord Kesh stood before the other representatives. His 4 eyes showed worry for the first time in his long life. "What is Order 66? He demanded. "What have they been doing for 6 months? No one had an answer. The council's best intelligence officers had been trying to spy on human space for months. None had succeeded. Every probe they sent disappeared. Every spy they planted was caught. It was like humanity had built a wall around their territory that nothing could penetrate. "We must find out," Councilmember Vex said. Her blue feathers were ruffled with fear. 14 days? What happens in 14 days? Perhaps it is just a threat, Thrax suggested. But even he did not sound convinced. His scales had lost their shine. Humans are weak. They only have a few dozen worlds. We have thousands. Commander Jiwoo stood on the bridge of the human battleship Indomitable. She was 40 years old and had spent her entire adult life in the Space Navy. Around her, crew members worked at their stations. The bridge was silent except for the soft beeping of instruments. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Donghyun said from his station. "The fleet is in position," Jiwoo nodded. She looked at the display showing the locations of every human warship. There were hundreds of them. More than the Council knew existed. For decades, humanity had been building ships in secret, hidden shipyards in asteroid fields, construction facilities on the dark side of moons, underground factories on colony worlds. The Council had thought humanity was weak because they had only seen the ships that humans wanted them to see. The truth was about to be revealed. "Send the signal," Jiwoo ordered. "Begin Phase 2. All across the galaxy, human ships powered up their weapons. But they did not attack. Not yet, they simply appeared, emerged from hiding, showed themselves. On the Council homeworld, alarms started blaring. Defense Coordinator Galak stared at his screen in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. "What is it?" His assistant asked. "Human ships," Galak said. 30 of them. Just appeared in orbit. "Are they attacking?" "No, they are just sitting there, watching us." The same scene repeated on every major Council world. Human warships appeared in orbit and did nothing. They did not fire. They did not communicate. They just sat there silent and menacing. The Council fleet that had been sent to threaten Earth was still 2 days away from Sol System when they got the news. Captain Vrex, a Manthor warrior with 6 arms and a reputation for never losing a battle, called an emergency meeting of all ship commanders. "There are human ships at our homeworlds," he told them. "Hundreds of them. They appeared out of nowhere. How is that possible?" Another captain asked. "Our sensors would have detected them." "Obviously, our sensors did not work," Vrex said. He felt anger and fear mixing in his chest. "The humans have technology we do not understand. Should we return home?" Vrex thought about it. If they went back, they would look weak. But if they continued to Earth, their homeworlds would be undefended. Before he could decide, another transmission came. This time it was a voice. A human voice. It spoke in perfect galactic common. "Council Fleet, this is Admiral Kyungmin of Earth Defense Command. You are ordered to stop your advance immediately. If you continue toward Sol System, we will consider it an act of war." Vrex felt his pride rise up. No one gave him orders. "Human Admiral," he said into his communicator. "You do not have the power to threaten us. We outnumber you, do you?" Kyungmin's voice was calm, almost amused. "Look around you, Captain." Vrex ordered his sensors officer to scan the surrounding space. The officer's face turned pale. "Sir, there are human ships all around us. They were hiding. They just activated their systems." "How many?" 200. "Maybe more. They are everywhere." Vrex felt his confidence drain away. The Council fleet had 60 ships. They were surrounded by more than 3 times that number. "We have been tracking you since you left Council space," Kyungmin said. "We let you get this far because we wanted you to understand something. You are not in control anymore. Your homeworlds are surrounded. Your fleet is surrounded. Your trade routes are cut off. We have isolated every Council world from each other." On Earth, President Seung-ho watched the confrontation on a large screen. Beside him stood General Bora and Secretary Yuri. They had planned this moment for 6 months. Everything was going exactly as they hoped. "Will they surrender?" Yuri asked. "Eventually," Seung-ho said. "But first they need to realize how completely we have beaten them." General Bora smiled. It was not a kind smile. The council thought we were primitives. They thought we could not challenge them. They forgot that humans are very good at one thing. What is that? Yuri asked. War, Bora said simply. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know every strategy, every tactic. The council species have been comfortable for too long. They forgot how to fight. More reports came in. Human ships were blocking every major trade route between council worlds. Mining operations had stopped because human vessels prevented supply ships from passing. Communications between council planets were being jammed. Dr. Minsu's shield technology had worked perfectly. Council weapons could not hurt human ships. The energy barriers she had developed absorbed every type of beam and projectile the council species used. In the council chamber, representatives screamed at each other. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested surrender. We cannot surrender to humans. Thrax roared. We are the council.
We rule the galaxy, do we?
Councilmember Rahl asked quietly. Because right now it seems like they rule us. Overlord Kesh raised his arms for silence. When the chamber was quiet, he spoke. Send a message to Earth, tell them we wish to negotiate. Negotiate? Thrax could not believe it. After 6 months of silence, they threaten us and you want to talk? What choice do we have? Kesh asked. They have us surrounded. Our worlds are cut off from each other. If they wanted to destroy us, they could do it right now. That was the truth that made everyone fall silent. Humanity had the power to wipe out the council. But they were holding back, waiting. The message went to Earth. President Sung Ho received it in his office. He read it carefully. Then he composed his response. It was short. No negotiations, not yet. First, you will stand trial for the murder of Ambassador Dejo. Then we will discuss the future of the galaxy. When Overlord Kesh received the response, he felt something he had never felt before. True fear. Not fear of death, but fear of justice. Because he knew that what they had done to Ambassador Dejo was wrong. He had known it when he ordered the execution. He had just never thought there would be consequences. Captain Vrex and his fleet were escorted back to Council space by human ships. They were not prisoners, but they were not free either. They were being watched. Controlled. Commander Jiwoo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the Council ships retreat. Phase 2 complete, she reported to Admiral Kyungmin. All Council forces contained. Good work, Commander, Kyungmin replied. Begin Phase 3. It is time to show them what real justice looks like. Across human space, people celebrated. For 6 months, they had worked in silence. They had built. They had prepared. They had trusted their leaders. And now they could see the results. Hana and her son Tai-min watched the news together. They saw human ships surrounding council worlds. They heard President Sung Ho explain that humanity had waited patiently for this moment. Is this for father? Tai-min asked. Yes, Hana said. Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. This is for your father, and for every human the council thought they could push around. In 14 days the trial would begin. Overlord Kesh and every council member who had voted for Dejo's execution would face human justice. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not primitive. Humanity was patient, calculating, and when pushed too far, absolutely ruthless. Order 66 was nearly complete, and nothing would ever be the same again. The trial chamber was built in neutral space, exactly halfway between Earth and the Council homeworld. It was a massive station constructed by human engineers in just 2 weeks. The speed of its construction had amazed everyone. The Council was learning that when humans focused on something, they could accomplish the impossible. Judge Soon-hee sat at the high bench. She was 70 years old, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much in her lifetime. Before the trial, she had been the Chief Justice of the Asian Federation Supreme Court. Now she would judge beings from across the galaxy. Beside her sat 2 other judges. Judge Marcus from the American Union and Judge Amara from the African Commonwealth. They represented humanity, but they had sworn to follow the law fairly. Bring in the accused, Soon-hee said. Overlord Kesh entered first. He was in restraints made of energy fields. They did not hurt him, but he could not escape them. Behind him came the 40 council members who had voted for Ambassador Dejo's execution. They looked small and afraid. The gallery was full of observers. Representatives from every species in the galaxy had been invited to watch. They sat in complete silence. Some were afraid. Others were curious. All of them understood they were witnessing something that had never happened before. The charges were read aloud. Murder, violation of diplomatic immunity, conspiracy to suppress evidence of corruption. Each charge was explained in detail. Proof was shown on large screens. Videos, documents, witness testimony. Council member Vex stood in the defendant area. Her blue feathers drooped. She had not eaten in days. "We did not think humans would respond like this," she said quietly to the lawyer standing beside her. The lawyer was human. His name was Jun Ho, and he had agreed to defend the council members. Not because he thought they were innocent, but because he believed everyone deserved proper legal defense. "You murdered an ambassador in cold blood," Jun Ho said. "What did you think would happen?" Vex had no answer. The prosecution was led by Chief Prosecutor Hyun-woo. He was a sharp man in his 50s who had never lost a case. He stood before the judges and pointed at the council members. "These beings believed they were above the law," Hyun-woo said. "They believed that their power made them untouchable. They were wrong. Today we prove that justice applies to everyone, no matter how powerful they think they are." The trial took 3 days. Witnesses came forward. Council officials who had been afraid to speak before now told their stories. They described years of corruption. They explained how the council leaders had stolen from poor worlds, how they had started wars for profit, how they had crushed anyone who tried to expose them. Ambassador Dejo had not been the first to try, but he had been the most successful at gathering evidence. That was why they killed him. On the second day, they played the recording of Deho's execution. The entire court watched. When it ended, Judge Soon-hee had tears in her eyes. She was not the only one. Overlord Kesh was called to testify. He climbed to the witness stand with his head lowered. "Do you deny that you ordered the execution of Ambassador Dejo?" Prosecutor Hyun-woo asked. "No," Kesh said. His voice was quiet. "I do not deny it." "Do you deny that he was protected by diplomatic immunity?" "No." "Do you deny that the evidence he presented was true?" Kesh hesitated. Then he sighed. "No, the evidence was true. We were corrupt. We had been for a long time." The gallery erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in 100 languages. Reporters sent urgent messages to their homeworlds. Judge Soon-hee banged her hammer for silence. "Why did you do it?" Hyun-woo asked. "Why kill him instead of admitting your crimes?" Kesh looked at the human prosecutor. For a moment, his 4 eyes showed something like regret. "Because we could. Because we had always been able to. For 10,000 years, no one challenged us. We became comfortable. We forgot that power without accountability is tyranny. And now?" Hyun-woo asked. "Now we face the consequences," Kesh said. While the trial continued, Admiral Kyung-min maintained the blockade around council space. Human ships still surrounded every major world. Nothing moved without human permission. Some council worlds tried to resist. The planet Thrain sent its defense fleet to break through the blockade. It lasted 10 minutes. Human ships disabled every Thrain vessel without destroying any of them. No one died, but the message was clear. Commander Ji-woo personally led the defense of the blockade around the council homeworld. She stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched her screens carefully. "Admiral, we have ships approaching from Sector 7, Lieutenant Dong-hyun reported. "Identify them," Ji-woo ordered. "They are civilian transport ships, from Velka. They are asking permission to deliver supplies to the council homeworld." Ji-woo thought about it. The blockade was meant to prove humanity's strength, not to starve innocent people. "Scan the ships thoroughly. If they are carrying only food and medicine, let them pass. But make sure they know we are watching." This was the difficult part of Order 66. Humanity wanted justice, not genocide. They needed to be strong enough to enforce their will, but fair enough to keep the moral high ground. President Sung-ho understood this balance. He gave daily addresses to both human and alien populations. He explained that humanity did not want to rule the galaxy. They only wanted to make sure what happened to Ambassador Dejo never happened again. "We are not conquerors," Sung-ho said in one broadcast. "We are peacekeepers. But we will not tolerate injustice. Not against our people. Not against anyone." Many smaller worlds started to support humanity. They had suffered under council corruption for centuries. They saw this as their chance for freedom. A delegation from the Torvan people came to Earth. They were led by Premier Yuki, a gentle species that looked like walking plants. They met with Secretary Yuri in Geneva. "The Council has oppressed us for generations," Premier Yuki said. Her leaves rustled as she spoke. "They took our resources and gave us nothing in return. We want to thank humanity for standing up to them." "We did not do this for thanks," Yuri replied. "We did it because it was right. Still, you have our gratitude. And our support." More delegations came. Within a week, 50 smaller worlds had declared their support for humanity's actions. The Council was fracturing. The fear that had held their empire together was gone. On the third day of the trial, the judges announced their verdict. The courtroom was packed. Every seat was filled. Billions watched on screens across the galaxy. Judge Sunhee stood. "After reviewing all evidence and testimony, this court finds the defendants guilty of all charges. Overlord Kesh and the council members who voted for Ambassador Dejo's execution are guilty of murder, violation of diplomatic immunity, and crimes against galactic peace." Kesh and the others showed no reaction. They had known this was coming. "The sentence is as follows," Sunhee continued. "Overlord Kesh will serve life imprisonment on a human penal colony. The 40 council members will each serve 50 years. Additionally, all personal assets acquired through corruption will be seized and returned to the worlds they were stolen from." She paused and looked directly at Kesh. "You said you ordered the execution because you could, because you had always been able to. That era's over. Power without accountability ends today." The hammer came down. The verdict was final. In the gallery, Hana held her son Taimeen close. They had traveled from Earth to watch the trial. Seeing the beings who killed Dejo sentenced to prison did not bring him back. But it brought something else: closure, justice. "Father would be proud," Taimon said quietly. "Yes," Hana agreed. "He would be very proud." After the trial, President Sung Ho held a conference with representatives from across the galaxy. They met in the same station where the trial had been held. "The council is broken," Sung Ho announced. "We will not rebuild it in its old form. That system was corrupt from the start. Instead, we propose a new galactic government. One with checks and balances. One where no single group has absolute power." "And who will lead this new government?" asked the representative from Belnar Colony. "Everyone," Sung Ho said. "Every world gets a vote. Every species gets a voice. And there will be laws that apply to all, enforced by an independent court system." "But humans will have special authority?" someone asked suspiciously. "For now, yes," Sung Ho admitted, "because we have the military power to enforce peace. But that authority will decrease over time as trust is rebuilt. Eventually, we will be just one voice among many." "And if we do not accept this new system?" asked a representative from one of the larger worlds. General Bora stepped forward. She had been standing quietly in the corner. "Then the blockade continues. Your worlds stay isolated. No trade, no communication. We can maintain this for years if necessary." The message was clear. Humanity was offering a partnership, but it was not really optional. One by one, the representatives agreed. Some were happy about it. Others were resentful. But all of them understood that the old order was gone. Admiral Kyung-min received orders to begin slowly lifting the blockade. It would take months to fully restore normal space traffic, but the process had begun. Commander Jiwoo watched as her ship started to pull back from Council space. "Order 66 complete," she reported. "Mission successful." On Earth, celebrations continued for weeks. Humanity had been challenged, and they had responded with overwhelming force and discipline. They had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. But among the leaders, there was also reflect 5 years had passed since the trial. The galaxy looked very different now. The old council building stood empty. No one had entered it since the day Overlord Kesh and his supporters were sentenced. Some species wanted to destroy it. Others wanted to turn it into a museum. President Sung Ho had suggested they leave it as it was, a reminder of what happened when power went unchecked. The new Galactic Assembly met on Unity Station, a massive structure built by joint effort from 200 worlds. Unlike the old council chamber, this one had no throne for an overlord. Instead, there were rows of seats arranged in a circle. Every species sat at the same level. No one was higher than anyone else. Ambassador Ye Jin represented Earth at the assembly. She was young, only 35, but she had learned from the best. She had studied everything about Ambassador Dejo's career, his strategies, his courage, his sacrifice. Today was an important session. The Assembly was voting on the final version of the Galactic Charter, a document that would define laws and rights for all species. Article 17, Yejin read aloud. Diplomatic immunity is absolute. Any violation will result in immediate intervention by the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. No exceptions. The vote was unanimous. Every representative approved. They all remembered what happened when diplomatic immunity was ignored. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force was something new. It was made up of ships and personnel from many worlds, but humans still formed the core. Admiral Kyung-min had retired, but his protege, Admiral Subin, now commanded the force. She was a tough woman in her 40s who believed in fair but firm enforcement of the law. The peacekeeping force had already handled several disputes. When two worlds started a border war, the force arrived and stopped it within hours. When pirates tried to raid civilian ships, peacekeepers hunted them down. The galaxy was learning that order had returned, but it was a different kind of order. Fair order. Commander Jiwoo was now Captain Jiwoo. She commanded the flagship of the peacekeeping force, a vessel called the Ambassador Dejo. It was the most advanced ship in the fleet, equipped with the best weapons and shields humanity could build. On the bridge, Jiwoo stood looking at a star map. Reports from Sector 19? She asked. Lieutenant Dong-hyun, now promoted to commander, checked his screen. All quiet, Captain. The Belnar colony is rebuilding well. They have used the returned funds to upgrade their infrastructure. That was one of the successes of the new order. All the money that Overlord Kesh and his council had stolen was being returned. It was a slow process, but it was happening. Worlds that had been poor under the council were starting to thrive. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some of the larger, more powerful species resented humanity's influence. They had lost privileges they once took for granted. A group called the Restoration Alliance had formed. They wanted to bring back the old council system. Their leader was a Krull general named Varkoth. He had been part of the guard that executed Ambassador Dejo. That made him a criminal in the eyes of human law, but he had fled before he could be arrested. Varkoth operated from hidden bases in remote systems. He commanded about 50 ships crewed by loyalists who believed the old ways were better. They were not strong enough to challenge the peacekeeping force directly, so they used hit-and-run tactics. Raids on human colonies, attacks on supply ships, nothing major but enough to be annoying. Captain Hyun-soo was in charge of hunting Varkoth. She commanded a small task force of fast ships designed for pursuit. For 3 years she had been chasing him across the galaxy. We almost had him at Delta Reef, she told Admiral Subin during a briefing, but he jumped to hyperspace before we could surround him. Keep trying, Subin said. Varkoth is a symbol for everyone who wants to go back to the old order. If we catch him, we break their spirit. Understood, Admiral. Back on Earth, life had changed in many ways. The planet was now the unofficial capital of the galaxy. Aliens came to visit. Trade flourished. Human culture spread to other worlds. Some humans worried about losing their identity, but most embraced the new role. Hana, Ambassador Deho's widow, had become a voice for victims of the old council. She ran a foundation that helped people who had suffered under the corrupt regime. She traveled to different worlds, meeting survivors, helping them rebuild their lives. Her son, Taimin, was now 12 years old. He was smart and curious, always asking questions about space and politics. He wanted to be a diplomat like his father. Mother, he asked one evening as they sat in their apartment overlooking Seoul. Do you think Father would be happy with how things turned out? Hana thought about it carefully. I think he would be proud. He died standing for truth, and because of his sacrifice, the galaxy changed. Yes, I think he would be happy. In the prison colony where Overlord Kesh was held, the former ruler spent his days in a small cell. He was not treated badly. Human prisons were designed for rehabilitation, not punishment. But he was isolated from power, and for someone who had ruled for so long, that was the worst punishment. A human psychologist named Minji visited him once a month. She was part of a program to help prisoners understand their crimes and eventually return to society. Most prisoners responded well. Kesh did not. I still believe I was right, he told Minji during their latest session. The council maintained order for 10,000 years. What humanity has built will not last. Why do you think that? Minji asked. Because you are too idealistic. You believe in equality and justice. But some species are stronger than others. Some are smarter. Pretending everyone is equal is a lie. Minji shook her head. No. What is a lie is thinking that strength gives you the right to hurt others. My species learned that lesson through centuries of war. Now we are teaching it to the galaxy. Kesh had no response to that. At the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Ye Jin was presenting a new proposal. It was about establishing universal education standards. She wanted every species to have access to good schools regardless of their world's wealth. Education is the foundation of progress, she told the Assembly. If we want peace to last, we need to ensure that everyone has opportunities. Poverty and ignorance breed resentment. Resentment breeds conflict. The proposal passed with strong support. Funding would come from a joint galactic budget that all worlds contributed to based on their economic strength. These were the kinds of changes that would have been impossible under the old council. The corrupt leaders would have stolen the education funds for themselves. But with human oversight and the new transparency laws, such corruption was much harder. Still, problems remained. The galaxy was vast and humanity could not watch everything. Some remote worlds still suffered under local tyrants. Some criminals still operated outside the law. But slowly, bit by bit, things were improving. Dr. Min-Soo, now head of the Technology Research Division, worked on new projects to help the rebuilding effort. Her team had developed cheap water purification systems that poor worlds could afford. They had created medical scanners that could diagnose diseases early. They were working on faster communication systems so distant worlds would not feel so isolated. Technology should serve everyone, Min-Soo told her team during a meeting, not just the wealthy. That is what makes our civilization different. One day, Captain Hyun-Soo finally cornered Varkoth. His ships were hiding in an asteroid field in unclaimed space. Hyun-Soo's task force surrounded the area. Varkoth, she broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Hyun-Soo of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Silence. Then Varkoth's voice came through. You humans think you have won, but you have only delayed the inevitable. The strong will always rule the weak. The strong have a responsibility to protect the weak, Hyun-Soo replied. That is what makes civilization possible. Your way leads only to tyranny and suffering. Then come and take me, Varkoth said. The battle was short. Varkoth's 50 ships fought hard, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Within an hour, it was over. Varkoth's flagship was disabled and boarded. He was captured alive. His trial was swift. He was found guilty of murder, piracy, and terrorism. The sentence was life in prison, in the same facility that held Overlord Kesh. It was fitting, some said. The leaders of the old order locked away together. With Varkoth captured, the Restoration Alliance fell apart. Some members surrendered, others disappeared into hiding. The threat to the new order was not completely gone, but it was greatly reduced. At a ceremony on Unity Station, Admiral Subin presented Captain Hyun-Soo with the Peacekeeping Medal of Honor. Representatives from across the galaxy attended. It was a celebration not just of one person, but of what the new system had accomplished. President Sung Ho, now in his final year of office, gave a speech. He was older now, his hair completely white, but his voice was still strong. 5 years ago we faced a choice, he said. We could have retreated after Ambassador Dejo's death. We could have accepted that the galaxy was cruel and unfair. Instead, we chose to fight for justice, and we won. But our work is not finished. Building a fair and peaceful galaxy is the work of generations. What we have started, others must continue. The audience applauded. Among them,